Hello, hello, hello. Hello, those of you out there. This is Willie Cartwright with From Save to Sane. Glad to be on today, to be here with you today. Those of you who are out there listening, please send me a message. Let me know that you are out there and you are listening and that you can hear me. I appreciate all of you who are listening and those of you who will listen in the future. Um, Hello to everyone. And I apologize. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been on here. Let me think. Last week was Thanksgiving, and so we were not here then. The week before that, I don't think we were here. I was preparing for a trip to San Antonio, Texas. I live in Georgia. So I was in San Antonio, Texas, or preparing. That was the night before I had to catch a flight to San Antonio for about 4 days, 5 days. The purpose of that trip was, um, in part, to do a presentation at the largest religious meeting or conference organization in the country. It's called the AAR, which stands for the American Academy of Religion. And I presented a paper along with one of my professors about African American nuns. Hey, Christine, glad to have you. How are you? The audio is good. Good. Thank you so much. Glad to have you. Thank you so much. So as I was saying, I presented a paper, and I'm going to talk about this for just a minute. I presented a paper along with a professor of mine about African American nuns. Um, Again, I think I've explained the nuns, not Nuns, but Nones, which stands for those individuals who do not identify with a church or a particular religion, faith, or denominations. Um, that category is broad and expansive. It includes, as I said in my presentation, as I've told a couple of other professors who are interested in my work at the PhD level, as I've told them, that category includes individuals like my mother-in-law, who is still a devout Christian, but hasn't set foot in a church in about 10 years. Um, and that's on the conservative end of the category, but on the the very liberal end of the category, you have people like a good friend of mine who once was a devout Christian, um, and now he is an atheist, and so everything in between. But my research is about that category, individuals who find themselves in that category, and more importantly, and more definitively, the study of how we are as African Americans, how the way we worship has changed and is changing, how we are becoming more secular, how we are leaving the church, the physical church, as far as our attendance goes. Um, and in an extension of that, as more and more African Americans fall into the category of none, how many or what percentage of those individuals in that category will become secular, agnostic atheists, or just what we also would say religion for them becomes irrelevant. Um, Jay Jammer, thank you for joining us. Be careful driving now, but thank you for joining us. So I presented. I got a lot of feedback, interesting enough. It appears to be a topic that people are interested in. That comes with a caveat. That caveat is that, and some of you may have experienced that, and I want to talk about that as well as the posted topic today, which is dissecting Christmas and why African Americans still celebrate it, because I think there is some connection. As I was saying, the caveat to the fact that people were interested in the subject matter is that many of those people who are interested in the subject matter don't look like me. So at this conference, I found myself at a dinner, a nice dinner, the only African American, um, at a dinner sponsored by a publishing company who expressed interest in writing or having myself and my professor, who again does not look like me. having my professor, a white 50-year-old male, write about this subject of African American nuns. And I found myself as the only African American at the table listening to non-African Americans talk about African American issues from the academic standpoint, from academia standpoint, from the standpoint of PhDs and professors at colleges and universities. So that was interesting to say the least. Um, and so the question becomes for me is, and I've ran this question by several of my current professors at the graduate level, my master's level that I'm working on, um, and they expressed to me that secularism it's certainly a subject that most African Americans would shy away from. When you encounter African Americans that are in academia, in religious studies, most of them will be somewhere around theology. They will be attending seminary schools. If they're not in seminary schools, then they are certainly studying it from a theology standpoint. Or what I have seen recently is the merger of women and gender studies into religious studies. So you will get religious study professors who write and teach not only about theology, but also women and gender studies, and where women and uh, gender studies fall in the category of theology. They will write and teach about homosexuality in the church. They will write and teach about a woman's place, her position, her positioning in the church. Um, but they will not touch secularism. They will not touch anything having to do with African Americans leaving the church. And so that is good and bad for me. It is good in the sense that it is a subject that a lot of stuff has not been written about, and there's an opportunity for me, if I so choose to pursue a PhD in this, there should be an opportunity for me to do work and research. Um, Again, as I said, the other side of that is that if I do decide to do this and I'm successful in getting into a program, more than likely I'm going to be working with people that who don't look like me. I was successful at the conference, at the meeting, and I did reach out. I did meet a couple of professors who are doing work remotely in that area, and they are African American, and they teach at a couple of other universities outside of Georgia. So yeah, so that's what I did the last 2 weeks. So we're going to try to merge the two topics: dissecting Christmas and why African Americans still celebrate it, and why our um, elite, academically elite African Americans run away, shy away from the subject of Black African American secularism and African Americans leaving the church. And I'm probably going to do a larger segment on that, a singular segment on just that topic. But since I brought it up and it just hit me, I said, this would be something else interesting to talk about as well today. But yeah, Amanda, glad to have you. Amanda NBS, glad to have you. Good evening to you. So I'm glad to have you guys join us. So as always, let me begin by saying thank you to a couple of people. Taisha Essick, thank you so much for everything you've done. I know you're out there somewhere. Hopefully, if you're not on here live, you will catch this at a later date. And absolutely, thank you to my wife who has been holding it down while I have been extremely busy with school and some other stuff going on. So thank you to her for her support and everything that she has done. And thank you to all of you who come back, even though I've been gone a couple of weeks. And so I appreciate that. One quick announcement before we really get into everything is I'm probably going to take the month of December off because of everything that's going on with school and some stuff going on with our business, holiday season, that kind of stuff, but some additional stuff going on too with the business, as well as school stuff, and as well as some stuff related to that hopefully ends well, and I can make an announcement later on in the first quarter of next year about that if everything goes well. But anyway, so today, Christmas, since this was going to be the last show for me this year, and we are less than a month away from Christmas, I wanted to talk about Christmas from the standpoint of us as African Americans, and I was celebrating the celebrating of Christmas and why we still celebrate Christmas, given everything that we know about this holiday. And we're also going to throw in, because I think it is indirectly related to what I mentioned earlier about our academic elite professors not willing to touch the subject of Black African American secularism. So let's begin. Most of us know the history of Christmas. We know that it was a pagan, it is a pagan holiday or centered around paganism. Christmas didn't really become an official celebration. We didn't get the December 25th date until around the fourth century in Rome. And clearly, that was historically that was based on winter solace, and so other pagan holidays and pagan deities celebrated. Birthday was believed to coincide with that day. And so the Romans decided in order to make it easier for non-Christians or non-believers, in this case pagans, to embrace Christmas, the holiday, they decided to make December 25th the official birthday of Jesus Christ. Um, and because it was around other pagan holidays, festivals, if you would, Christmas sort of incorporated some of the behaviors of those festivals, meaning the gift giving and some of the other characteristics of the festivals. So to say, so basically, none of this. As I had a discussion in my class. Those of you who don't know, I do teach a class here at a university in Georgia. I was telling my students, and I have some devout Christians in my class. It's an intro to religion class, and so we discuss and we talk about all the religions. But I expressed to my class, including the few devout Christians that I have in the class, that very little in the Christian faith is original. Um, and I was being nice. I said most of it is borrowed, and I use the word borrowed as opposed to the word stolen. But I talked about how a lot of the ideas and everything that go on with it, a lot of those things are borrowed from other faith practices, those which are older, much older than Christianity. And a couple of the students were surprised to hear that. And so we did a little research on that and talked about that. But again, so Christmas is one of those things, the date, December 25th. Um, Even Jesus being born of a virgin, because that would indicate his birth. There's also ideas that was borrowed from much older religions. Uh, Hello, Hawaii. Hawaii, I'm probably saying it wrong. How are you? How are you anyway? How are you today? Glad to have you with us. Peace to you as well. Um, so yes, so that's Christmas, and so fast forward 1,600 years, we are still celebrating this. Good to see you as well. Thank you for being here. We're still celebrating this holiday, African Americans. As I look out my window here, I see people with lights up for the holidays, Christmas lights, and so forth and so on. Um, those of us who do not celebrate this holiday from the standpoint of the religious aspect of it, I know many of us who may not celebrate it, may not be Christians or may not be believers, we still take this opportunity to spend time with loved ones, and I think it's absolutely awesome, and I have no issue with that whatsoever. My wife and I, we take time, depending, to spend time with our loved ones. I just spent Thanksgiving Day with my sister and my niece and my great niece. Opportunity to see her for the first time. She is 1 year old and adorable as can be, and precious and all of that. So it was great doing that. But that was what we did. We didn't necessarily celebrate Thanksgiving per se because of the history, and my wife and I, we know better. But we do take an opportunity to spend that time with family. So we drove to Alabama and spent time with my sister and my niece and nephew and great niece. But it's saying that Christmas is also one of those holidays or days that even those of us who don't or not believers, not Christians, we take that time to spend with our loved ones, and I think that's perfectly fine from that standpoint. But what I am asking and what I'm getting at and driving at is for those of us, those African Americans who still celebrate Christmas from the standpoint of this is Jesus' birthday, blah, 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 so forth and so on. The question becomes, why do we still do that? I know because I'm a Christian, so I must celebrate this, my God or my Jesus' birthday. But why is that even important? And especially when we know that even if he did exist as a human, even if he did exist as a human, and that's a big if, um, he would not have been born, his birthday would not have been December 25th. If you look at the history, if you look at things in the Bible, agriculture, things that was going on at the time, historians would place his birth somewhere in the spring. Um, and so again, you ask yourself, why is this the case? But before we even get to that point, one of the things that we don't necessarily talk about, even those individuals who say, yes, there's enough evidence, and I use that word really loosely, evidence that shows that Jesus existed as a man. How do we get over the fact that this so-called Jesus was supposed to be born of a virgin and that we've never had that to happen prior or since? That's a whole nother tangent to to address. But anyway, so why are we still, as African Americans, still celebrating this day as a day of, well, this is the day that he was born? Um, it behooves me, and I'm asking that question, and anybody who can come up with an answer or any suggestions of an answer, please let me know. On top of that, I know many African Americans, even though some who are those who are believers, understand that there are other, are believed to be other deities who share the same birthday as Jesus Christ. Some of these deities are much older than Jesus Christ. And so, again, why has that been the case? And so, I want to throw this out before, because I'm going to read a list of some deities whose birthdays who are believed at some point by some people believed to share the same birthday as Jesus Christ. But the question I'm going to ask is this: if your God is, if the Christian God, is the Abrahamic God, is who we say He is, or who they say He is, and who people believe that He is, why confuse us and why allow for His followers, His believers, to believe that His Son was born on December 25th, knowing all of the controversy, everything that would come along with that? Why not specifically have a date, um, instruct or tell, or however the writers of the Bible got their information? Why would this God, being this God, not instruct the writers of the Bible to say, okay, here's this actual date of his birth, April 15th, tax day, right? April 15th or whatever, right? Why not that? If this God is, if this is the same God that can tell you not to eat shrimp, so why, so why can't this God say? And remember, this is the absolute, outside of his death and resurrection. This is the absolute most important thing in the Christianity faith. I mean, this is the second most important thing next to the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is obviously his birth. And so, why can't we not get a definitive date for his birth? Why does his birth gets thrown into a group of other deities celebrating on the same day? Christine says, wait, let me go back to Jay Jamming. What's going on, Jay Jamming? Jay Jamming say, made it safely. Now I can join the dialogue. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Glad you made it safely. Christine says, exactly. Many deities share the exact same date of birth, as well as being born of a virgin. So I'm going to read some of them in just a second. Jay Jamming also says, Some continue to observe due to cognitive dissonance. That's absolutely right. They don't even think about it. It's just one thing to do, and they feel bad if they don't do it. Um, but let me give you a list of at least 16 other deities who are believed to be born on that day. And I'm going to say this with a caveat because I know I'm going to get pushback from those who listen to this later, and because I get comments every week from the podcast, which is awesome. Some favor, some not. But I know that I'm going to get pushback from some believers out there who are going to challenge and going to say, well, deity such and such as evidence that this is not true. He wasn't born or believed to be born on that day. Um, Outside of the fact that we're saying that just like Jesus, the divinity, in my belief, none of these really existed either. But so I know I'm going to get that pushback, and I will, and I totally agree. There are some in this list that if we had to bet, we would say that this is not true for that particular deity. But then the second point of this is kind of what I made earlier. If this God the Abrahamic God, know that this is going to be this kind of confusion, then why would he allow for his son to be part of this grouping of deities born or believed to be born on this day? So, on the one hand, I understand that this is not necessarily true for each of these that I'm reading. But also, it is a reason that most of these, the list of these deities, are believed to be born on this day at some point by some group of people at some time. It's the winter solace and all that kind of stuff. But it makes you think, like, why are they all born on the same day? Are they not? Are they borrowing parts of their story from each other? Interesting. To include Christianity. So yes. So let's go to this list. Number one is Mithras, Mithras. The reason why I'm spelling it is so that you guys, any of you who's listening or who may listen in the future, can do your own research. But it's a Persian god of light and truth, was worshipped by Roman soldiers and emperors, was born from a rock and killed a bull to create life on earth. The second one is Osiris. Um, all of these I'm familiar with. I've heard. The Egyptian god of the underworld and resurrected was killed by his brother Seth and revived by his wife Isis. He was the father of Horus, the judge of the dead. His birthday was celebrated on the 25th day of the month of Kiosk. Kiosk. Number three, Horus, the Egyptian god of the sky and son of Osiris and Isis. His mother conceived him after his father's death and fought against Seth to claim his throne. He was depicted as a falcon and a man with a falcon head. His birthday was celebrated on the 25th day of the month of Ipiah. I'm reading this additional information about these deities because I want us to pay close attention to the circumstances surrounding their origins. And I want us to compare that to the circumstances surrounding the origin of Jesus, um, and how he was created or born or whatever. And think, if you would, with an objective, unbiased mind, and compare all of these stories and tell me how different are these stories, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. That number four, Krishna, the Hindu god of love and compassion, was the eighth avatar of Vishnu. He was born in a prison cell in Devaki and Vasudeva, who escaped from the tyrant Kamsa. He performed many miracles and taught the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. My wife read that book. His birthday was celebrated on Jamasha Tama, which falls on the eighth day of the dark fourth night in the month of Pragma. Buddha. I know that this is not true and probably shouldn't be in this category in this list. The founder of Buddhism and the enlightened one was born um, Santara uh, Gautama in Nepal. He renounced his royal life and attained nirvana under the Bodhi tree. He taught the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path to end suffering. His birthday was celebrated. It falls on the full moon day in the month Vishnu of Vasaka. Attis, number 6, uh, god of uh, god of vegetation and rebirth, was son of lover of Cybele. He castrated himself under the pine tree and died, but was resurrected by his mother after 3 days. Um, Dionysus, which some of us have heard of. Number 7, the Greek god of wine and ecstasy, was the son of Zeus and Semele. He was born from his father's thigh after his mother was killed by Zeus' lightning. He taught humans how to cultivate vines and make wine. He was also known as the Bacchus in Roman mythology. His birthday was celebrated in Brumala, which lasts from November to December. Number 8, Hercules, the Greek hero and son of Zeus and Alcima. Acmene. He was born in Thebes and had to perform 12 labors to atone for killing his wife and children in a fit of madness induced by Hero. He became immortal after the death and fire on Mount Ota. His birthday was celebrated on a day which falls on the 25th day of the month, of a particular month. Zoroaster, the Persian prophet and founder of Zoroastrian, was born in Iran. He received revelation in the supreme God of light and wisdom from the supreme God of light and wisdom. He taught about the cosmic struggle between good and evil and the importance of free will and moral choice. Sol Invictus, also believed to be born on December 25th, the Roman god of the unconquered sun, was introduced by emperor in 274 CE. Adonis, the Greek god of beauty and desire, was son of Mithra and Thais. He was born from a myth tree and loved by Aphrodite. He was killed by a wild boar sent by Ares, but was resurrected by his lover after 4 months. 12, Balder, the Norse god of light and joy, was the son of Odin and Frigg. He was the most beloved of all the gods and had a dream of his death. He was killed by a mistletoe arrow shot by his blind brother Hodor and was tricked by Loki. He was resurrected by his mother after Ragnarok. His birthday was celebrated on Yule and lasted from December 21st to January 1st. Tammuz, Tamuz, the Sumerian god of vegetation and fertility, was the son and consort of Inanna. He was killed by demons in the underworld, but was resurrected by the lover after 6 months. Freyr, the Norse god of fertility and prosperity, another Norse god. And finally, Nimrod, the Mesopotamian king and hunter, was the son of Cush and the grandson of Ham. He built the city of Babylon and the Tower of Babel. He married his mother, Semiramis, who claimed that he was reborn as her son after his death. His birth was celebrated, which lasted from December 17th to December 23rd. So those are some of the gods that some people believe at some point in some time all birthdays fell on December 25th. We know that some of these are disputed, absolutely. So I'm not arguing that. What I am stating is that there's a reason for this to happen. All of these so-called pagan gods, mythology that many people today believe that all these gods are mythical beings, are mythical deities. if Jesus Christ's birthday falls on the same day, and if Jesus Christ's origin story, being born of a virgin who got impregnated by a god or the spirit from this god, being born, if that doesn't sound like mythology similar to all of the other stories that I read, then I don't know what you are looking at or what you are hearing or reading. The origin stories of Jesus Christ, uh, his birth, down on the cross, being resurrected and ascending to heaven to be with God, sounds as much mythology as any of the other stories that we know about deities and God. And I challenge anyone um, to debate me on that. If you are not familiar with the Christian religion, the Christian faith, and you hear the story of Jesus, his origins, his death, his resurrection, and you compare it to all of these other gods and deities, their birth and resurrection, especially around the same day, the same time, December. The stories are eerily similar. They are just as wild as each story are just as much as wild as each other sounding. If you hear the stories, and so the question remains: this God of Abraham, if he really exists, this Abrahamic God, why confuse the people? Why confuse all of us by allowing your son to be believed to be born on this day, or at least celebrating this day called Christmas? Um, so that's kind of where we are on that. Let's see. Amanda said, "I am multitasking. I'm listening and cleaning." Awesome. Yeah. So I challenge my people, African Americans, to, and this is done in a collective thought process. The way I like to do this is I like to stack rocks or bricks for for people. Someone said to me the other day in class, they believe that my viewpoint may have stemmed from church hurt. They knowing of my history, being a Christian for about almost 40 years or 40 years or so, and then leaving the church. Um, I guess over 40 years, 40 years consciously knowing, and then leaving the church and now pretty much denouncing Christianity. They said that they believe that it's because of church hurt. And I explained to them that any person who has truly been a part of the church, Christianity, or any other faith for that matter, and denounces that faith and leads that faith and embarks on a journey, that it is not because of church hurt. I explained it to them like this: if church hurt or being unhappy in part of in a relationship or an organization or even a family led to you denouncing the relationship, the organization, or the family, then none of us would be part of organizations, families, or relationships because none of those are perfect. And so, all of the organizations that I am a part of, there are issues, and I have voiced my opinions about those issues within those organizations. My relationship, as perfect as it is not perfect. It's probably my doing so. And that's why I know my wife voices her concern about things that I do or don't do, and vice versa. I mean, minor things, but yet it's not perfect. Um, and so the same thing with a church. Um, Everyone who's ever attended the church know that there are things that go in the church that you may not agree with. So you don't leave not only the church but the religion because of church hurt. However, what church hurt will do for some of us is start us down the path of research, reading, asking questions. So I like to, again, when I mentioned stacking bricks on top of each other, those of you who are listening to this and will listen to this, ask yourself a number of questions. Ask yourself, why is Jesus part of this group of individuals born or believed to be born on December 25th? Why does this God, the Abrahamic God, allow us to believe that, which is confusing in itself? Why doesn't this God of Abraham just say, here's the day that my son was born? Give us an exact date, April 15th, May 1st, whatever it is. Um, and what is different about this Jesus and his origins than any of the other 16 that I just read, and the many others that are out there. There is nothing different. The His origins, like all the rest of them, is improbable, unplausible, and physically impossible. Um, so we've never seen a person born of a virgin ever. It's never happened before or after Jesus' existence. So you need to question that. And so when you start to stack these bricks, you start to ask yourself questions. Now, at some point, some of you will get to the point where, hmm, is this really any different than any other mythology? Is this any different than any other faith or religion that you may consider to be mythology, not true, fake, fraud? What makes your belief, what makes your religion, what makes Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever it is, what makes yours real and the other not real? When they share many of the same traits and characteristics. Um, and that is a real question to ask yourself. If your belief system shares many of the traits and characteristics of faiths that you 100% believe to be fraudulent, to be fake, not to be real, why would yours be real then? If it looks like a cat and it walks like a cat and it smells like a cat, then damn it, it might be a cat. So if your religion looks like other mythology, smell like other mythology, then it may be mythology. It may be fraudulent. It may be fraud. And so there is nothing you have absolutely. And when I say you, I'm talking those out there who are going to try to defend their belief system. In this case, Christianity. You have your beliefs, but as far as empirical evidence, you have no more than any of the other gods that I just read off, whether it be Nimrod, whether it be Krishna, whether it be Apollo, whether it be Zeus. You have really no more empirical evidence than anybody else. You have a book um, that was written, and because of Constantine and the printing press, many more people have read your book than maybe say the sacred scriptures for Adonis or Krishna or some of these other deities. But that's not empirical evidence that your deity exists. We have no physical evidence, no archaeological evidence of the divinity of Jesus. We have no physical or archaeological evidence of the existence of God whatsoever. Zero, none. And I've said this on multiple occasions over a number of years, and I've yet to have anybody to bring me that evidence. And so it's not there. Everything from the Shroud of Turin to people said that they found Noah's Ark, which again wouldn't be evidence, but it's not true. They've never found anything. Absolutely nothing is there. So again, um, when you really dissect Christmas and you really start to look and see where everything came from, uh, what was borrowed from other faiths and other religions, it should make you ask the question, why isn't that Jesus, who's supposed to be the greatest person to ever exist, why wouldn't he have a definitive birthday if he was truly born from a virgin as a human being? Why do we not have a definitive date for his birthday where we all could celebrate? And here's the thing: if there really was a definitive date, um, May 5th, the year one or the year four, uh, it may be possible to trace back and see if there's some kind of records. I don't know if that would, obviously, believers are going to say, well, that would be no birth record because he was born in a manger. No one was around. There's no one to keep record. Um, but at least it'll give us somewhere to start, right? Um, and give us a place and a time. So all of this is conveniently mysterious that we have very little information about this God, this Jesus, and yet many of us, not just here in this country but across the world, base our entire existence on this. And then those who are part of the Abrahamic faith, but not necessarily believers in Jesus Christ as the Messiah or the second coming or whatever, we based our entire life on the belief in this Abrahamic God with absolute zero evidence of that. And so again, this is what this eventually gets back to. And this is why we do this channel, is to have you, as Christine said a little while ago, have you to question everything. Um, and that's all I want. I tell people all the time, I'm not trying to deconvert anyone. But what I want people to do is question everything, especially African Americans. I want us to question everything. And let's begin with by questioning the validity of this God, this Jesus, our belief system, and why we celebrate this and why we believe in this. Christine said, borrowed or stolen to give their God validity. Absolutely right. Absolutely. As I told my class, I said, isn't it, and I showed them a map. I said, isn't it funny and ironic that most of these religions that we talk about were all started in the same general location um, on the planet? And so you're telling me that if all of these or most of these religions were started in the same general area, are you telling me that they're not going to borrow from one another ideas, norms, rules, things from each other as they establish their religion and their faith? So that's absolutely, you cannot. There's no way that I can live in a neighborhood, in a house, in a neighborhood with other people, and not take some of their traits and characteristics. It's done all the time. People who don't look like us live around us long enough, then all of a sudden they develop rhythm. They learn how to cook better. They learn how to season their food. They dress differently, and vice versa. Those of us who are a minority in their community, we tend to change things. We start to eat differently. We may try some things we never tried before. We end up snorkeling, or we end up parasailing, or we end up doing things that we never would think about doing. So that happens in every society, in every community. So for anyone to say that that doesn't happen, they don't know how society and cultures develop whatsoever. Amanda said, I do now. I question everything. I even asked my mama why she named me Amanda. It seems suspicious. Amanda, I would love to hear what your mother said. And why do you think it sounds suspicious? That's interesting. Um, wow. Ezel, glad to have you here with us. Ezel Stubbs, thank you for joining us. The Anunnaki gods of the Sumerian are the ones Abraham family worship. Yeah, I think I am familiar with that as well. Yeah, but I have to do some more research on that. But absolutely. And so, um, again, we need to be able to dissect our faith from a standpoint of going back in history and understanding how this developed. We're so afraid of questioning because we don't want to upset the apple cart, as they say. We believing the way we believe for African Americans right now is comfortable. It is convenient. It is comfortable. And as the argument that I often get back from people I talk to, what's the harm of believing? They tell me you run the risk of eternal damnation if you don't believe. And as my wife and I talked about last night, uh, um, why would an all-knowing God create a hell, knowing that some of His creation would end up there? And why would He create us, knowing that some of us? Why would He create those of us, probably like myself, if this God, this heaven thing is real, which I don't believe. I mean, this heaven and hell thing is real, which I don't believe it is, but let's say it was real. Why would He create me knowing that I am going to spend eternity in hell? Why would He do that? That is inhumane. That is evil. And it makes absolutely no sense. And so why would I even serve a God like that? Why would I create something that I know that I'm going to cause to suffer unmercifully forever, for eternity? Think about that. Why would this God create? First of all, why would He create a hell? Secondly, why would He create us to the point where we're going to do something that gets us in hell. And then why would he create us knowing that some of us are going to go to hell? That makes no sense to me, and it is downright evil. Christine said, if you are enjoying the content as much as I am, please share. Thank you so much. Yes, please, please, please share. Thank you, Christine. I certainly appreciate it. Amanda said, she said she named another A name. My father wanted to name me artist, and she said no. Exactly. Isn't life hard enough? You're right, Amanda. Think about it. For many people on this planet, they live in hell every day. And I'm not talking about just those people who are struggling to pay bills or who hate their jobs or who might be involved in a bad relationship. I'm talking about others who are literally living hell, famine and war and abuse, sexual and physical abuse, starvation, every single day. And these individuals are not believers in Jesus Christ, then they die and spend an eternity in an even more, even worse hell. So why would a so-called all-loving God create that situation? That's even if that God was real, that's not a God that I would want to worship. Because the first question I would have for him is, why is it that I walk around my university every single day and and literally, no exaggeration, there are hundreds of homeless people in the park and around the restaurants and around the school. This is a downtown campus in Atlanta. There are literally hundreds of homeless people that suffer every day that don't know where they're going to get their meal from. When it's 30 degrees outside, they have to find a place to stay warm. And so you create these individuals. They endure this life for as long as they can. And then for those who are not believers, they die and they go to a hell that you created, God, this God. Um, and for those who are enduring this and they are believers, is why isn't their God helping them? You know what I'm saying? Why is their God leaving them in this position? I am telling you, when you are steps from a homeless population almost every day and you see it, and it does something, at least to me, it does something to me. I remember when I was the last church I did attend, they had a fantastic outreach program in the community, and they would bring the homeless people into the church's um, gym or whatever, and they would feed them, once a week on Saturdays. Um, and I'd be part of the program. But what I would also do is that I would sit down with some of them and I would ask them questions. I would ask them, not from the standpoint of blaming for anything, but just want to know um, their thought process and where they were in this whole thing. I would ask them, what could we do differently? What could the community do differently to help them? And because they were in the church, and the church made sure that they heard some words about Jesus and God before they could partake of eating the food or whatever. And I would ask them, what was their thoughts about that? Um, how do they feel about Jesus and God and their situation? And ironically, um, many of them held on to that belief as their only hope that things would get better. And they were certainly grateful for what the church did and what the church provided, even though it wasn't something that occurred every day. They were grateful for that. And then some of us would go out, actually walking in the community to find others and feed them as well. Uh, but it was amazing of the resiliency of those people and the fact that they held on to the one thing that they considered to still provide hope for them. So and from that standpoint, I am certainly empathetic and sympathetic uh, on this journey and on this mission. I don't try to discourage anyone from believing however they want to believe, especially if that belief provides them mental comfort. Absolutely, I do not challenge that at all. Um, for those individuals who don't need that mental comfort, or who's coming at me from the standpoint of their God and their belief system is absolutely real, and that I am wrong for not believing, then we have issues. Absolutely. So yeah. So very interesting. Amanda said it makes me question why people have children. Life can be torment. I refuse to bring humans into the place that I can't protect them from. Amanda, there is a quiet is kept. There is a movement, and I use the word movement, but there is a movement, especially for those individuals. I would say 30 and under, who are just refusing to have kids. A lot of the reason is why you're saying. And when I talk to my friends, people my age who have adult kids or kids who are getting ready to graduate high school or have gone to college or whatever, many of their kids are back home. Many have 20-year-olds, and even close to 30-year-olds still living with them because it is so difficult out there, um, for them to make it. And just the things that I see on social media, the things that I see, that I hear. My wife and I don't have any kids. There hasn't been one day in our 18-year marriage, soon to be 18-year marriage in a couple of months, where we've ever regretted not having kids. Not a day, not an hour, not a minute. We've never regretted not having kids. In large part because I talk to so many of my friends who do have kids, and they express exactly what you said, Amanda, that it is hard, it is difficult. There is no guarantees, no promises. It is extremely stressful. Um, but I know that, from a collective standpoint, we do need to procreate, some of us, in order to have the species continue. I don't think that everyone has to procreate. As a matter of fact, there are people who have procreated that probably should not have procreated, and then there are probably people who did not procreate that probably should have, because they probably would have made great parents. However, you can't make people do things that they don't want to do, and if you don't want to raise kids, like I never wanted to raise kids, we should not be forced to do that, because it is a lifelong, um, mission that you are on. You are connected, and it's something that you have to do for, or be responsible for in some fashion, most of your life. And that was something I did not want to be a part of. Um, so yeah, absolutely. And so, the reason why you made that point and why we're talking about it is that, this God, this so-called all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing God, um, you know, theoretically puts us in a situation, some of us in a situation where we're suffering and enduring hell on earth. And if we don't fall to our knees and take him as our savior, then we're going to spend our eternal death in another hell. And that makes no sense to me whatsoever. There's nothing loving about that. There is nothing, um, that I want to be a part of. And so all of this stuff, back to stacking the bricks, makes you, or should make you, question your belief system, if you're still part of any belief system, that have these things that we've discussed as part of the tenets of that belief system. Um, and I'm speaking from what I know, which is Christianity. A man also said, in my hometown this week, a student was stabbed, to death at school. A second student fighting, for his life, 14, 15, 16-year-old. Yeah, uh, we see this all the time. And matter of fact, um, if it's not, uh, really a salacious story, the vast majority of stories go untold, in every city, in all these cities, because the news is only so long. They only cover so many stories. It has to be something really extraordinary. Unfortunately, young people stabbing each other, young people killing each other, on a daily basis. It's not extraordinary enough, for the news to cover like that, because we become numb to it. We've normalized it. It has become such a part of our society now. Um, And again, that's part of the whole suffering thing. I had a student, a friend, well, a colleague of mine. She's a student. She's also a teacher, a professor. She said the other day, she said, "Yeah, I'm still a believer." That's what she said. She said, "I'm still a believer. I believe in God." She said, "But when I die, I got a long list of questions for God." And a lot of her questions centered around suffering and things that's going on, racism and all of this. And I kind of just kind of nodded my head like, okay. So, even in that, even someone who professes to be still devout and still a believer, has questions as to how this God, so-called God, works. Um, and those people who are um, cognitive in the middle of cognitive dissonance would say it doesn't matter. He can do whatever he wants to do because he's God and blah blah blah. And you can't question God, and God works in mysterious ways. And that's not enough for me. And that shouldn't be enough for you. Even if you are believers, that shouldn't be enough. Let me get some of these last comments. We got about 4 minutes. Christine also said, if I knew then what I know now, hard stop. I wouldn't have, because this is not a place to bring children to, because they will suffer under this prison system of white supremacy. Yeah, you know what? Selfishly, I think I'll be so stressed out, worried about my kids. And my sister's 2 years younger than me, and I watched what she went through raising her two kids. My nephew now is 32. Yeah, my niece is 25, and I don't wish that on anyone. What she went through raising her kids by herself, with the fathers in and out or whatever. Oh God, I don't wish that on anyone. So yeah, absolutely. Amanda said, "Why is it that when I rid myself of the thought of a Jesus, fear almost automatically went away?" It's the same reason why Christians are the only people that get possessed by demons. They're the only people that get possessed by the devil, uh, because it's all part of the game. It's all part of the process. When I say this all the time, the church needs us to be fearful. It needs us to be poor. It needs us to be physically ill. It needs us to be mentally ill, because that's how the scam works. That's how the program works. The more in need you are, the more you need or feel like you need God or Jesus, and the more you go run into the church. When we're doing good collectively or individually, when we're individually doing well in the aspects of our life and our health and our relationships, and our finances, when we're doing well collectively, generally speaking, we tend to go to church less. We tend to need God less, and that doesn't work. That's not part of the recipe for this thing called church and religion. Um, it has been some other comments. Let me go back up. Uh, Man, my thing is not working right. Let's see. Where'd I stop? Yeah, so Amanda said, "Hey, Christine hugs." Amanda said, "Girl." Then Amanda said, "Nobody's going to be answering those questions. You won't even be able to ask." Absolutely. And if you start asking questions according to what most Christians say, you're gonna get kicked out. You get kicked out of heaven for questioning God. Uh, Christine saying, "No parent wants their offspring to suffer." Absolutely, Christine. That's basic and simple. When I ask people all the time, if you, and I use this analogy all the time, if you walked in on your child and your child was struggling, a stranger was, he was, that your child was struggling fighting a stranger. Uh, I don't care how big the stranger was. I don't care how mean, how menacing the stranger looked. Your child would not have to beg you, pray to you, um, get 15 other people to pray with them to get you to help them to stop this whatever this stranger is doing to them. It would be automatic, because what you have for your child is unconditional love. So why is it that when this God, who's supposed to supposedly loves us more than anybody else, loves us even more than we love ourselves, why is it that when we need something, I'm not talking about when we want something, I'm talking about when we need something, we have to pray, beg, get 15 other people, 20 other people with us to pray. And then maybe he may not answer our prayer. That's not love. He's watching us suffer. He's watching all of his so-called children suffer day in and day out at different levels. And so I don't. Why don't we ask those questions? Um, Amanda said, I would be stressed out too. I would be stressed out too. I feel that way about my nephew, so I wouldn't dare birth a child. Yeah, I was. Uh, I mean, my nephew was stabbed at 15 in a fight. He had a punctured lung for a while, and I was, I was stressed about that. And it was just my nephew, and I was so concerned about my niece getting pregnant before high school. I mean, before she got out of high school or whatever, and all the things that go along with being a woman in this country, and even for my nephew. So yeah, absolutely, I understand. Absolutely. Um, Let us say that makes sense. Isaiah said Joshua 24 asked the Israelites if they wanted to go back and serve the older gods or serve Yahweh. Amanda said, nope, never unconditionally. Yep. Christine said most Christians talk about Jesus is going to fix it when he returns. We are supposed to believe that nonsense. If Jesus hasn't done anything all these 1,000 years, what are you waiting for? Absolutely. It's been 2,000 years since he left. He's not coming back to fix anything. And then for those individuals who have died waiting for him to fix it, it never got fixed, right? So they died waiting for him to fix it. So why are we still waiting for this Jesus to come back and fix anything? I'm a secular humanist, which means I believe in humanity. I believe that if anything is going to get better, it's going to be because we did it, because we fix it. It is not going to be because some deity out of the sky or some god or some supernatural being came and fixed it. It's going to be what it's going to be. And until we do something about it as humans, it's going to be the same. And when it gets fixed, it'll be because humans fixed it. Um, so I absolutely appreciate all of you. This was awesome. I will be back January. I'm hoping. I think it won't be the first Thursday. I think the first Thursday falls on like the 2nd of January or something like that. So it won't be the end, but it'll be the following. What's the day? Thursday. It'll be the following Thursday, which I think is that the 8th or something like that. Whatever it is, I will send out a notice, or you guys will get the notice. But it'll be in January, and until then, enjoy your holidays however you celebrate or don't celebrate it. At a minimum, if you don't celebrate it like I do, spend time with loved ones or spend time resting, relaxing. Do something that's fun and enjoyable. Um, and I appreciate all of you for this year. It's been awesome. It's been fantastic. I could not have asked for anything more. I look for more next year. I'm not going anywhere. I will be here, and I hope all of you will be here as well and invite others. The station is still, the channel is still growing, and it will continue to grow thanks to all of you. And I can't express enough how thankful I am that all of you are here. Um, Amanda said, no, at the funeral, they'll say God did fix it and fixed it on the other side. Yeah, it's so convenient, right? Amanda said, Happy New Year. Same thing to you. Appreciate it. And I will see you guys next year.